to The Merge, everybody. We're glad to have you today. And I'm really excited for the guest that we have today. It's Mariana Atencio. Welcome. We're so glad to have you. Thank you for coming.
Gio. We're so excited to be here with you guys.
And so for people that don't know who you are, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and the whole experience of what it is and who it is to be Mariana Atencio?
Well, I'm a journalist by trade. I am a motivational speaker and I'm a best-selling author. I am now the co-founder and entrepreneur of a company called Go Like, which I co-founded a year ago. So in short, I'm a hustler. I'm also a proud Latina, Venezolana. I came to the United States around 12 years ago to pursue my dream of telling stories. And that's what I've been doing my whole life. You know, I gave a TEDx talk, which went viral all over the world. I can't believe that it's been seen by like 15 million people at this point. And I started with a simple story, which kind of defined my life trajectory, which is my dad, mi papa, in Venezuela when I was around 7 years old, said to me, Mariana, I'm going to send you somewhere where nobody speaks Spanish so you can learn English, so you can learn about the American way of life. And being a little girl in Caracas, I thought that he was going to send me to like Miami, farthest, Orlando.
Yeah.
My dad put me on a plane and sent me to Brainerd, Minnesota. Aquel lago. When I get there and I see the lake, I'm a little Caribbean girl, just like you are, right? So I see the lake and I immediately like jump in the lake. I'm like, este lago está frío. This lake is freezing cold. And I'm like, what's that on the other side? And everyone's like, that's Canada, darling. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder it's freezing cold. I'm like, Dad, could you have sent me to the farthest place? And it was incredible because I really discovered myself there. I also discovered that I was different and that I had this gift to tell stories and kind of build bridges of understanding. Because then I would go back home to Caracas, tell all my amiguitas, oh my God, I learned this and that, and this is what America's like. And then I would go back to my summer camp in Minnesota the next summer and tell everybody what life was like in Latin America. So when I tell stories now as a journalist, whether it's on NBC News or on the TEDx platform, or even for my book, it's building bridges of understanding between people.
And you know what? When we first met, so for those of you that are not familiar with me, of course, this is I'm Gio. I'm Gio. Yeah, like you got to know who this is. If you're tuning in, it's because you know. But if you don't know, I'm a personal trainer by trade, and we got connected through a mutual friend who's also a client of mine. And she said, listen, you got to go see Gio, which, you know, I said, thank you for letting her know about me. But when we initially met, you told me about the TEDx, the conference that you spoke at. And I saw the video and I was like, wait, hold on. Like, if you're going to be speaking at that, like you really have to be, usually well known. But if not, you usually have to be really good with your words, really good. Because I'm not real comfortable talking with a big group of people. I kind of have had to grow in that aspect. But you killed that presentation, and I've seen it twice. You did a really good job, but one of the things that floored me is that the connection that you have with people, and that's something that I appreciate with you. Like every time we go into a training session, not only do I have a good time, but everybody else that's around us, they really enjoy your energy, the vibe that you bring.
You also bring that out in me.
Oh, thank you.
So let me tell you guys that, you know, whenever you speak before a big audience like that, which I definitely enjoy, I'm a big nerd. I was like valedictorian in high school and like memorized my whole little speech. So I guess I've been doing it my whole life, but you really need to be in control of your body, right? And I wasn't in a great place when I first came to you, and the improvement just holistically for my whole being has been amazing. So thank you. Because I walk in there and so he does three things that I love. One, well, you know that I'm capable of a lot, so you push me, right? And then two, you also like always bring out the positive in everybody else. And three, you always see the person as a whole, right? It's not just about like the physical. So when you told me about doing this podcast and motivating more people, I was like, claro, of course we're going to do it. Yeah.
And that's what this is about. Like the Merge, it's all about that. It's bringing people that are like-minded, people that are successful in their walk of life, and just bring them together. And, you know, if we can impact, even if it's just one life, you know, I'm satisfied with that. That makes me feel so much better. And I know that helps you feel better as well.
Qué lindo, no? That's my life mission. That's why I wrote the book, Perfectly You. That's every single story that I put out on television is like, if I can, you know, make somebody think about something that's happening in the news or out there in the world different, and in a way say, wow, so I could be that person that's happening to, then my job is done.
One thing that's also very unique about you and special is that you're Latina. We hear it. You're, Spanglish, we hear it. Right? And, right now, as you speak, that's very unique. And although there's several Latinas out there, there's not as many making a positive impact when it comes to in your realm where you're at. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at least from my point of view, growing up, all we really saw from Latinas in TV and Latinas in media was just, how they were kind of like, I don't know if this is even the right term, but sexualized, I guess, maybe that's the right term. I don't know if it is or if it isn't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of like, you never really saw them glorified for their work. It was more so, oh, she's pretty, so we'll talk about her, at least when I was growing up. And that's I don't think it's Latina's fault. I think it's society's fault in general of how we really didn't lift them up like we should have. You coming in, and I've seen some of your work, I haven't seen everything. But all the stuff that I've seen of you is very positive. Is very, even when you were reporting on things that were negative, I know like natural disasters and things, you always brought like a little positive spin to it. Where did that come from? Like, was that maybe your father? You mentioned your father earlier. Did that come from him ingraining that into you? Did it come from, life experience? Where did that come from?
So first of all, the whole Latina thing, I get goosebumps. Se me paran los pelos because I'm so proud to be a part of this community that welcomed me. So when I came here and had nobody really, no contacts, no connections, no family, the Latino community opened its arms to me. So now I feel like it is my mission to give back to the community that welcomed me. And when you talk about Latinas in media, absolutely. I mean, being eroticized has been definitely one of the traits that's most associated with us. And I think that we are not really seen. That's the issue. For a community that is around a quarter of the population almost at this point, if you count those who are undocumented residents. I mean, we're talking about more than 60 million people, probably half of that, women. Yeah. And the fact that there are so few of us in media on national platforms, even writing books, is something that I've made it my life mission to change. And I definitely want to do it in a way that's authentic. And that means speaking Spanglish, mostrarnos como somos, wearing clothes and earrings and hairdos and what name you that is reflective of who we are with pride. So that's also why I went out and said, you know what, I'm going to leave the traditional media path and I'm going to start my own company because I believe that we can do it better than anybody else can. That's what I've set out to do in TV, in books, in motivational speaking, in creating content. And then in terms of the positive spin that I give things, that's definitely my father. I mean, I think it's my outlook. If I had to figure out, what my 3 words are, and I always ask people to do this exercise, I'm going to ask you for your 3 palabras, your 3 words at the end of this. You guys think about what are the 3 words that define you, because we never spend any time thinking about ourselves, right? We're always thinking about performance or product or other people, but never about us. And we are the original magic trick right here at the Merge. So think about your 3 words. One of mine is definitely optimistic. That's who I am. But my dad, Gio, was also mi papá. I called him a great alchemist, alquimista. An alchemist is a person that transforms something because he transformed the simple into the extraordinary. Something like, let's sit on the grass and like have a little picnic. So it didn't even have to be like anything luxurious, or it was just his thirst for life and appreciation for the simple things, which made him so special.
We need people like that.
Absolutely.
We need people like that. Like I know, it's funny you mentioned that about women. Women, I think I've had great examples of men in my life. I really have. But I've been really impacted in a different way by the women in my life. One of them is my mother. My mother is very
What's
strong.
What's her name?
Woman.
I've never asked you.
Cristi. She's a very strong woman. People that know her will tell you that. She's very strong. And my dad was always, he was always involved. But she was the one that when I get home from school, she'd be the one that was there. So whenever there was something going on at home and, I wasn't doing my part, she really gave me that, that line of, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is what needs to be done. Like, you need to go ahead and wash your dishes.
Bueno,
I'm going to treat you like the grown man that you're not yet.
In Spanish, la mano dura,
La mano dura.
Christy, you did an amazing job, lady. Congratulations. You are such a gentleman, Gio. At the gym, whenever you're creating content online, like, I would say that's I don't know if it's one of the 3 words you define yourself with, but you are always just so well-mannered and nice. You're a nice person. So good job, Christy.
Well, that wasn't one of my 3. I'll give you my 3 if you want.
Pues, which one are they?
The first one is going to be blessed. Because I really feel that despite whatever's going on the exterior, I'm always going to be blessed because I'm going to declare that over my life. So that's number 1. Hope. And the reason that I use hope as my second one is because whenever we lose hope, what else is there? Like, you have to have hope for the future, hope for your current situation, no matter what the case is. And then the third one, I like to, I would like to say fit. And the reason why is because fitness is not just a way of how you look on the exterior, but also the interior. If you're not fit with what you're doing and what you're bringing into your heart, into what you see, with what you put in your body, how are you going to be an outward blessing to others if you're not doing that for your own self?
I always say you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah. And
fitness to me, or fit rather, is actually the equivalent of one of my words, which is disciplined. You can't be fit if you're not disciplined. Correct. With everything you do.
Yeah. Like you said, with everything that you do. Which, I don't know about you, but sometimes I can, and being a trainer, being a coach, I can struggle with that. Like, one of the things that I struggle with, and people that know me know this, like, everybody knows this, I have a really bad sweet tooth. Really bad.
I know.
Really?
I know. Twice a week I go see Gio, and sometimes I go in and I'm like, oh no. And that means that I've also probably eaten sweets as well.
What's your go-to, like, dessert? Sweet, what would that be?
I'm a big sucker for, so I'm going to give you one image.
Okay.
Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh, that's me. I love honey. La miel, I can't, it's just, if you read my book, there's a chapter on breakfast.
Which one?
The first one, because I'm writing a novel, which is going to be my second book.
Yeah,
already blessing it. Yeah, you plugged it in. Already blessing it here. And there's a whole chapter about breakfast. So what do you eat when you're on the go? When you have, also being a breaking news reporter, which I was for 10 years of my life, you have no idea when you're going to eat, when you're going to be able to sleep, when you're going to be able to shower, when you're going to be able to work out. So I discovered, which is something that I teach my conference attendees now, and my executive leaders, I discovered the power of the ritual. I didn't have any rituals. Like, I didn't have any steady routines to fall back on. And since I was always so hungry in the mornings, one of my main ones was like, I need to figure out breakfast. If I can have my breakfast, then it doesn't matter if we don't eat for the rest of the day. Like, at least I will be in a good chirpy mood. And that breakfast, for me, usually has to include honey or at least jam. So I came up with my peanut butter, honey, and banana breakfast on bread.
That you do religiously.
Bueno, now I mix it up with some arepas because I'm now living in Miami.
We're still working on her. We'll get there.
Mi arepa venezolana, of course.
Listen, so interestingly enough, and I'm going to be honest, I usually, in my history, I have struggled to connect with people from Venezuela.
What? This is news to me.
I used to always get annoyed by them. I'm being honest. I used to always get annoyed by them.
What annoyed you about
it? Me quitaron eso, and I'll tell you why. My mother-in-law, although her family, de descendencia cubana, she was born and raised in Venezuela.
Oh, wow.
Right? So my wife was born here in the United States, but, my mother-in-law's from Venezuela, so I had to learn, right? I love my mother-in-law. Like, ella me hace la arepa esa de vez en cuando, because, I can't put on that weight. I have to be a good example to my clients, but I grew to love Venezuelans. Started with my mother-in-law, and she's going to love that I say this. She's going to love it.
Que digas lo contrario.
But then not only that, my cousin's husband is from Venezuela.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't stand him in the beginning. And he knows this. I love the guy now. I was a little kid. I was, But I have grown to love Venezuelans.
And now you're surrounded.
I'm surrounded. You, Federica, David, and I love you guys. So I guess I had a few bad experiences beforehand, but now probably some of my favorite people, along with some of the ones that are helping us film this that are from Colombia. Shout out to Colombia. But I just love you guys. I really do.
And listen, New York was where I first arrived after. So Gio.
So after Minnesota, you mean?
So after Venezuela, when I decided to leave
okay.
Venezuela, because Minnesota I would go up for the summers. When I finally decided to leave Venezuela, I was 24 years old, and the government there started, closing down television stations, and I said to myself, well, I won't be able to be a journalist down here. And I decided to pack up and leave for the States. And when I came here, the first place that I came to was New York. So the Dominican community there, Los Dominicanos, and
Washington Heights.
Claro, o sea, you guys really welcomed me. I worked at a newspaper, was my first ever job over there.
I didn't know that.
And El Diario.
Oh,
it's the oldest Spanish newspaper in the United States. Was my first ever job. And, I would cover whether the music beat, we were joking around before starting. I did have to cover the firefighters calendar, and I had to go, the Puerto Rican Day Parade, all of these New York things I had to cover. I loved it, It just gave me a glimpse of a community of people that was resilient and just happy, and just your guys' spirit is incredible. And now, obviously, being here with the Cuban community in Miami is great as well.
That's what I love about being Latino is we're so different, but yet we're so it's just so united. So if you're Latino, the unity that we have. I know that there's some rivalries, if you're neighboring countries, there's certain things, we especially if it's a soccer game or the World Cup.
Oh yeah.
We can't talk for a week, but I just love our culture. I love the sayings. I love lo dicho, everything. It's just so beautiful. And one of the things that I remember from growing up is my dad and his dichos. Mm-hmm. Was there any dichos that your dad had or your mom had for you?
One of my favorite ones. Camarón que se duerme, se lo lleva la corriente. Have you heard about this?
That's the first time.
Yeah, first time.
But it's good.
Camarón que se duerme, se lo lleva la corriente. Come on. It means the shrimp that falls asleep will be swept away by the current.
So that's equivalent to the early bird gets the worm?
No, because it's not about waking up early. It's about you have to be aware of your surroundings or you're not going to know what's coming. Y se te va a llevar la corriente, you'll be swept away by the current. You have to be alert.
That's a good one. I like that.
Camarón que se duerme, se lo lleva la corriente. What about you?
The one that comes to mind, actually, the one that I'm thinking about is my grandfather. My grandfather passed away last year. And it wasn't necessarily a dicho, but when we would watch TV and there would be a scene that would go on, he would always say, que roña me da. Que roña me da. And I would always be like, abuelo, what are you saying? Eventually, my mom told me that was like he'd be upset or frustrated or pissed off. But as far as a saying right now, off the top of my head, I can't really think of one. My dad has so many though. There's just too many of them. I got one. I'm so sorry. So when I would tell him that, what's for dinner? Comicaya.
Comicaya.
Comicaya. You heard that one?
No.
Comicaya. To this day, I'm a grown man with a wife and a kid, and I'll be like, Montro, because I call him Montro. Montro, ¿qué vamos a comer hoy? Nah, comicaya.
Comicaya, yeah.
And
just be thankful.
Just be thankful, exactly. Table, yeah. Just be thankful that we have food on the table. And that's one thing I love about my dad. I know we've talked a little bit about yours, but my dad, he's kind of like yours in the sense that very positive, very positive. No matter what was going around on the outside, on the exterior, this past year especially, we've suffered a lot of loss, and he's been a rock. He's been very positive. He always knows what to say. He's given me an example of how to treat my mother-in-law because of the way that he treats my grandmother, and the jokes and the love and the affection that he has. I'd say that I'm glad that you have had the father that you had when he was here with us, and also mine as well. I think we've had great examples. And I know this is completely off of what we're talking about, but for those of you guys that have family or are dealing with issues with your family, just remember you want to maybe repair those relationships. Absolutely. Because we don't know how long we have our family with us. Absolutely. If you've been thinking about, sending that text message or that email or just picking up the phone, just do it. Yeah. Remember our conversation today and just do it. Another thing I wanted to bring up to you, I know you're used to being the one asking all the questions. I know. Today's my turn. It's my turn today. I'm struggling, but. So to be someone as active as you are
Mm-hmm.
physically, as active as you are mentally, and all the projects that you have going on, if it's not one thing, it's another thing. And it motivates me to do more. Whenever we've talked about our goals, with each other. What fuels you? Like, what is the thing that keeps you waking up in the morning, other than the coffee that you wake up and drink?
Caffeinated.
Yeah, all the time. But what's that thing that drives you every single day?
I think going back to my dad, he just hearing me speak English the way that I do was because he made a tremendous sacrifice, as did my mom, to be able to open up the world, the doors of the world to us.
Yeah.
And I always saw that as, I remember my friends growing up would be like, oh, Mariana, otra vez estudiando, and you're going to keep studying, and I saw it just as a great privilege.
Mm-hmm.
So one day my dad sent me a little postcard in one of these summer trips that I was in, and he wrote down, and I still have it, I saved it. He said, with great privileges come great responsibilities. What are you going to do with all this? Show me you can. I've given you so much. Show me what you can do with it. So now I feel this beautiful responsibility to do something with those gifts. So I try and do my best every day. Of course, there are days when, for those of you watching, you will get imposter syndrome. Like, am I really capable of dealing with this? There are days where you will be downtrodden, where an opportunity is going to fall apart. And listen, that's normal, because if every day would be a great day, then we wouldn't know what the struggle is. But I would say that I'm always at my best when I've been knocked down, and when I'm scraping the dirt off my knees and my face. I'm like, okay, what do we have to do now? Because I'm so hungry for the comeback. I'm hungry to make something of myself and to fulfill my God-given potential. It brings me back to, as I was saying, this analogy, the Teddy Roosevelt Man in the Arena poem that is cited by Brene Brown all the time.
Yeah.
When you're in the arena, which is kind of us when we train. You're there, you're duking it out, you're getting dirty and you're trying to make something of yourself. It counts so much more than those people that are clapping from the stands.
So true. I say this, I don't say it to a lot of people, but I say it to certain people, that adversity breeds excellence. You can always kind of see the people that have gone through some stuff, and you can kind of see the ones that have pushed past that threshold and understood, I have more in the tank. I can do more. I can be more. And those are the people that really excel in life. I believe that every single person that we come into contact with has a purpose.
Absolutely.
Like, every single person that's watching us or hearing us at this very moment has a purpose. But those that really excel and those that make a large difference and a big change in society as a whole are the ones that can be excellent despite the adversity that they go through. And through the adversity that I've gone through in my life, I have found my purpose. And I know that my purpose is to impact people in a positive manner, because you can also impact people in a negative way.
Yeah.
But to impact people to want more for their life, to live a very blessed life, a very prosperous life, where you can just be a light to people. How many times have we come into contact with people that are very just everything that comes out of their mouth is just dripping in sarcasm or dripping in negative, but if we can just bring that light, I know that's what I was put on this earth to do. So me saying that, I want to ask you, what is your purpose? Do you know what that is? How long did it take you to figure that out?
So I love that you, not only do you know, but that you also say it out loud, because being a journalist and an author, our words are so powerful, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, they can be used as a destructive force, but also as a constructive force, right? So there's so much power in our words. So once you figure out your purpose, say it out loud, say it to people, write it down, because that's how our dreams begin to be a reality. Mine, as I mentioned in the beginning, I think it's always been to tell stories that make people come together, that build bridges of understanding. Ever since I was a little girl, telling my friends what I learned about this place or this other place, and then realizing in my home country, which was, it was at one of those moments of reckoning, saying to myself, well, now it is telling the stories that the government is trying to cover, right? And it is leaving this place which I love and where I feel comfort and where my family is, to build a platform in the United States, the land of the free, where I will be able to shed light and tell the stories about my people and about my home country. So that is my purpose.
Was when you were discovering your purpose, Like, was there a specific moment that you could point back to and say, wow, this is what I have to do? Like, did something happen in Venezuela that you said, I have to stand out and speak for my people? Like, how'd that work out?
So I always knew that, and it's okay, you guys, for those that don't know what your purpose is, like there's not a specific time when you have to like decipher it or it'll come to you. Just always be like searching for it, right? So I remember saying to myself, well, what am I supposed to do with my life and my gifts? You know, I loved public speaking. I knew that.
Great at it, as you can see.
I loved performing. Like I was always like, mi mamá always used to say, that's a dicho about me. She always used to say, Mariana lo que quiere siempre es una cortina. All she wants is a curtain para que pueda salir del otro lado. So she could like jump from behind the curtain. That was me growing up, right? So I knew that I liked performing and public speaking and writing. And I'm like, well, what do I do? If I put all those things in a blender, like what comes out, right? And it wasn't immediate to say like, oh, a TV journalist, you know? It was in the spring of 2007 was when the government of Hugo Chavez at the time shut down the biggest television station in our country. I was a college student studying communications. And I remember we just went out as students and we started protesting this, you know, authoritarian move by the government. I was in the thick of it. I was in the thick of it. They sent out the National Guard to stop us. I was protesting with my friends, classmates, teachers. Gio were counting on us, saying like, the future of our country is on your shoulders. I was marching with my brother, my sister at the time. We're very close. The three of us went to the same university. We were tear gassed. They opened up water cannons on us. It was a time when in the thickness of the tear gas and being there with my family, I knew what my calling was.
Wow. And interestingly enough, through that adversity, how much excellence has come ever since that?
I try.
I try. You deserve one of these. You're doing a great job. You've pointed to several different instances, family members that came alongside you and helped you. They helped lift you up in these different seasons of your life. Who's that support system that you have today?
Oh, it's everything for me.
Yeah.
It's everything for me because and I learned this early on, because if you realize, so news, right? You only see the reporter or the anchor, but news is such a team effort. If your cameraman isn't supported, or your sound man or your field producer or the people in the control room in New York, the show doesn't go on, right? So you need everybody at their best. And in that regard, I learned early on that I was like a Formula One racer. I need to know, obviously, my vehicle, which is my body, my voice, right? I need to know my editorial. That's like your control of the car. But then who's your crew, the pit, your competitors, all of that is important. Nowadays, especially to do so many things, as you mentioned, because I dabble and I dab into so many things. It's books, it's speaking, it's TV. I need my partner in crime, who's a beautiful Panameña.
Yes.
Her name is Mirna. And she started out being my mentor. She's older than me. And for those of you who are trying to find yourselves, your purpose, don't underestimate the power of having someone, a mentor, because they're able to see you from the outside and tell you things like, you have to write a book. And I'm like, tú te volviste loca. Who's gonna want to read what I have to write? I'm 30-something years old. You're crazy.
Don't tell the people.
I don't care. Because I look great. Oh, thanks to you. So, kidding. No, this woman was absolutely instrumental in my life. And she's a TV veteran, 25 plus years experience. And at that point, we said to ourselves, like, wow, this relationship is so organic. It's so fruitful, so constructive. Why don't we go into business together? Beautiful. And it's a partnership that has really, through thick and thin, been my steady rock. Because I always say, if you're gonna jump towards something unknown and you do it with somebody else,
it's easier.
It's just so much easier.
So, despite a lot of, because we haven't really touched upon it, but there have been a lot of changes in not just your life, in all of our lives, because of the past year, the pandemic, and all of that. You transitioned from more the corporate world, the corporate setting, this is what you're going to do and you have no say, to now I have this platform that I'm the boss along with your partner. You guys decide what you're going to do. You're going to decide where you're going to go, how you're going to do it. How freeing has that been for you? What have been some of the transitions that maybe some of us from the outside looking in that I have no knowledge of the industry that you're in other than what I see on TV. I don't know the ins and outs. What has been some of the changes and some of the things that have been maybe freeing for you?
It's been the best time in my life. It's been an absolute amazing ride, and it's just getting started. So I'd say the freedom is actually my favorite word in the entire universe. La libertad is what I fought for in Venezuela, and is what I continue to fight for to this day. So the freedom to be able to pick my own projects, to also reject ones that I don't feel are the right fit for me now, to tell the stories of my community in a way that I know is authentic and positive, that's incredible. In terms of, when you're starting a business, especially a media business right now, with all the changes everywhere in the world, because we're all at an inflection point, right? There's been two keys to our success, which I think you guys will find useful. One is this idea of just diversify. We used to think as traditional media people, Mirna she worked with Don Francisco. She has won, a Murray Award, an Emmy, we're both Peabody Award winning journalists. So we're both very traditional in our
approach.
And in our school, media school, if you will, NBC, Univision. So it was, it doesn't necessarily have to be television, it was realizing it may be TikTok, where we have a growing community on. It may be a TED Talk. It may be a book. As long as the content is strong and authentic and resonates with people. And it's also about finding people where they are. Yeah. And that has meant being very nimble, right? Because it's meant, if things aren't flowing in the book space right now, let's say, why don't we, people are at home, people want to learn, why don't we go ahead and do our own master class, or what could we do a master class about? People are responding to our Spanish and English code switching that we do online. Let's do it about that. That could be a business opportunity for people. So it's being very nimble, forgetting about these traditional notions of it has to be this. If it's not TV, I'm just going to sit con los brazos cruzados and not do anything. No, and just diversifying as much as possible. And then one of our corporate mantras that goes with that, wherever the light is coming in from, wherever it's flowing, double down on that. And wherever you think or you feel that this is getting a little hard, just pull away for a moment, and then you'll see that sort of door opens up. And the second thing I would say is what you mentioned in terms of just being relentless. It's you may have bad days, but that's why our company is called every day we move forward. We're like a fast moving train in that regard. You can't, it's good to take a pause, but you sort of, no te puedes estancar, which is the right word. What would be the term in English? You can't,
I would have used
you just can't get stuck.
Neutral? Get stuck in neutral?
Yeah, you can't get stuck in neutral. You can't get stuck, period. And there's an amazing Harvard research program that I looked into for my many conferences, which is called The Power of Small Wins, which I love because, you may not get a big win every day. There may be moments of defeat and doubt, but if you move forward just a little bit every day, then you'll realize that those small movements forward will eventually lead to where you want to go. Absolutely. And remember to celebrate.
Yes.
Small wins, and remember to celebrate the small wins. Claro, la fiesta.
The interesting thing about the goal that you just gave us right now, of all the words that you were just saying, is that despite the things that we run into, especially when you're trying to start off your own business and you're really on your own starting off, like in your case. And the same for me, I kind of have the same story. I came from the corporate gym setting, had no idea what I was going to do because some things that I had believed I had set up for basketball fell through. And I was like, I guess I have to get back into training. It's very easy to, when things don't go your way, to chalk it up as an embarrassment, a failure, a lost cause. But when you turn and look at things from a different perspective, which is, I'm glad why you have Mirna in your life, because she's one that kind of, hey, you need to do this, and pushes you to do things that you might probably otherwise not have done on your own. Whenever you have that positive person or that mentor pushing you to do things, those things that could have been an embarrassing moment or a failure end up being a success. Was there any embarrassing moment or something that you considered a failure that really had you second guessing yourself and wondering, man, did I do the right decision? Did I make the right decision?
So totally on board with you regarding failure. people often forget that, and I guess as a society, we're just not taught to view it that way. Failure is a part of success.
Yeah.
There's no success without failure. They're two sides of the same coin. I don't know if you're familiar with that poem. I'm very poetic today. You bring out the poet in
but
me.
you always are. You always are.
I don't know if you are familiar with the poem "If" by Rudyard Kipling.
Yes.
So there's a line there where he goes, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, they're two sides of the same coin. So I think a moment of failure that ended up being a moment of success for me, or at least it was perceived failure, was when I left NBC News. You know, I was the only Latina on their cable network.
Really?
I was, it took me years of even anchoring at Univision to get there. And when I said, with a contract on the table, because I have at a 4-year renewal, and many people don't even get that, I told the president of MSNBC, I'm gonna leave to pursue my passion project.
Yeah.
And he said, what can I do to get you to stay? So the president of MSNBC, and I said, I really feel like I felt in my gut that I needed to do what I'm doing now. But I got the classic, se volvió loca.
Yeah,
this is a position that people spend 20 years of their life in. Like, what are you doing? So there were moments of doubt. But ultimately, as you say, you just have to trust your gut and trust in your vision and your purpose and say, like, listen, every day is not going to be perfect, but as long as I'm doing what you feel in your heart is what you're meant to be doing, not somebody else's idea of what you're meant to be doing. Because I think so many times you do what you think your parents or your teachers or your partner, what they think is right for you, but you in your gut know what you should be spending your time doing.
So good. So good. Another nugget.
No, and that's true freedom there.
Yeah, which is your favorite?
It's my favorite
word.
Freedom is my favorite word, and you want to know what my word for 2021 is?
What is it?
Control.
Control.
How can we take control when everything else seems so uncertain? Yeah. And working out with you is something that gives me control. Yeah. Okay. So I get out of that gym and I'm like, I can take on the world right now.
I never, like what I was thinking of when you said control was something completely different. Like you wanted more control of things, but and that's just where I went. But
es que it's a word
different.
It's a word that's been given a negative rep.
Yeah, negative connotation. But what you just said is not negative.
It's beautiful. It's because when you're in control of your car, you're the one deciding where you want to go. When you're in control of, another thing that I love about you, when you're in control of the radio station, you're playing the music that you want to hear. And this is a great segue to the fact that one of the things I love about this man the most is that he plays the best music at the gym. We're blasting to reggaeton and singing and dancing twice a week. So it's awesome.
One thing that I've always tried to do, because I think, like when I get the auxiliary cord, I've always, when you're on the road trip with family or friends, you think that when you have that chance, I'm going to put the best music. But I've always thought of it as, okay, if you're going to spend an hour with me, 55 minutes, however long the session is, let me put what you want to listen to. So, like, it's funny because there's times where I'll have someone, we're just playing Metallica. We're going in with Metallica. And then all of a sudden you come in and it's reggaeton, right? So it's funny because, I always have fun regardless of whatever I'm playing because I'm not going to play anything that I don't like, though. I will say that. But I appreciate you saying that I play good music because now, I'm not insecure about it. Now I know I'm playing good stuff.
You should own it. Totally.
What would you consider to be your greatest accomplishment to date?
My greatest accomplishment to date? My book, Perfectly You. I did it in 2 languages, which is, people think that the Spanish book is like, oh, it's a Google Translate. No, I wrote both books, and just a testament of the fact that I wrote, and each book is independent. The Spanish one, because we take that much longer to say the same thing. The Spanish one is 70 pages longer. Because I'm like, explaining the same incidents and takeaways for people. But I remember not even like the book tour or anything like that. I remember this moment when I walked into a bookstore and the book has my face on the cover. And a little girl was there with her friends and she looked at the book and she looked at me. She looked at the book, looked at me, and she said, "Are you the girl on the cover?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Can I be on the cover of a book one day?" And I said, "Claro, of course you can. You can be the owner of this bookstore if you can. You can be an astronaut or the president of the United States. You don't have to be perfect, title of the book, just perfectly you.
Yeah.
And it's that visibility, especially for women of color, for women from immigrant backgrounds, that when they see you do something, they know that they can do it themselves.
And, through that was so beautiful, because through what you feel is your purpose, which it is, because you decided that, telling stories, you changed one person's life, which we don't know where she is right now. We don't know what country she's in. We don't know anything about her, but we do know that you impacted her, and maybe she will do whatever she decides she wants to do in her life because of that impact that book had and the words that you spoke over her. One thing that I'd like for you to do is, if you can tell those that are listening and watching us right now, how can we connect with you via social media, LinkedIn, like all of that? Where can we find your content? Because there's a lot of things that people need to hear from you.
Ay, gracias, Gio. You can find me at Mariana, is my first name, Atencio, all together. I'm most of the time, so I hang out on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, but Instagram is my favorite. It's just more immediate. And I really do try to respond to every single DM. So if you tell me that...
As long as it's not a creep, sliding in,
chico,
obviously,
no.
hay que tener cuidado porque hay gente loca por ahí.
If you tell me that you come from Gio and that you heard me on this podcast, I will make sure to prioritize your message.
Okay. Names of your book, in case people didn't.
My book is Perfectly You and Perfectamente Tú in Spanish. You can find it on Amazon Prime, and you can also download it on Kindle or hear the audiobook. So I also narrated the audiobook in both Spanish and English.
Oh, so you just cut everybody from you.
No, mira, so my publisher was HarperCollins, and I remember the publisher called me and he said, "You're the first author that has read their book in 2 languages themselves, because they usually get somebody else to do the other voice." And it took me weeks, Gio. It's such physical work, and I was like crying in the booth, or laughing, or going through all these emotions. And then I'm like, I have to do it all over again in another language. No. So anyway, if you want to hear it in the audiobook is also really authentic, so it's nice. I've heard good feedback about it. Yeah.
And before we wrap up our time today, I want you to tell us something that really not many people would know about you. Anything could be random, interesting.
You caught me a little off guard. Some of the people, because I talk a lot about, there's a lot of my story online in the book. I can do a good Southern accent.
No. All right, let's see. I have to put you on the spot again because I didn't know this.
I've loved being a part of this podcast, Gio. Thank you so much for having me. You're such a doll.
Did you stay in Georgia for
I don't know where I came from.
So is that something that you practice, or
I don't know. I think it's just because I grew up watching American movies and TV so much in Venezuela to work on my English. It's probably something I picked up watching Nick at Night or something.
It was like we're on Little House on the Prairie.
Exacto.
Well, no, once again, we're blessed to be here with you today. We're honored to have you. It's not often that we can have someone that's an author who's been on a TED Talk, who has her own business, left the corporate world, is Latina, is proud to be Latina, on the podcast with us today. And we're just thankful for you being here. And we would love to have you again in the future.
And I'm also proud to be your student.
Yes.
Gracias a todos. Thanks you so much.
Thanks, guys. Take care.